These are the things that made adulting go from absolutely exhausting to being very manageable and something that I'm now in control of. And trust me, if I can do it, so can you. Let's start with the first thing that took me way too long to figure out: mastering a budget system. There was a point where I had so much debt and bills piling up that I just stopped looking at it altogether. I would just swipe my card for groceries and gas and just everyday living expenses and hope that I don't get a transaction decline notification. And for a while, I convinced myself that that was just normal, that everyone else around me was also living in debt silently just to stay afloat. And although that's actually pretty normalized for most of this country right now, the thing is, it's not sustainable. I was stressed avoiding my bank accounts, and on more than one occasion, I would take on more cards and more debt just to pay off the minimums on other cards. And I felt so ashamed, like I should have had this all figured out by now, but I didn't know where to start. That'll change though, when I learned how to simplify a budget in a way that actually works for me. Instead of looking at it like an impossible math problem, I started using the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of income going to essentials like rent, bills, and food, 30% to wants because boys just want to have fun too, and 20% to saving or paying off debt. And I'll be honest, at first, this felt impossible, and I had to face some uncomfortable truths about my spending habits. Do I really need that new watch, or is this just a distraction to give my ADHD brain a little bit of dopamine? Once I started using the system, I felt in control of my finances for the first time in my life. And I'm not a math guy. I failed trigonometry in high school, and I almost got, that teacher sucked. And using this, helping me get out of that debt and actually set up some sort of future for myself, has allowed me to feel like more of an adult and in control of my finances than ever. The next lesson was embracing failure as a learning opportunity. I used to be terrified of failure. I thought that every mistake I made was a sign that I wasn't cut out for the life I wanted. I'd mess up at work, I would miss a deadline, I would make the wrong decision, and then all of a sudden it felt like the world was just crashing down on me. I would get stuck playing over and over in my head what went wrong. I'm talking about that kind of mental spiral where you completely convince yourself that this mistake is just proof on why you are never going to figure out that adulting thing. One of my worst moments was from the time I was 27 into the time I was 31. I started a nutritional supplement company that I spent every waking moment doing. I invested everything into it. And just when I thought we were picking up momentum, the pandemic happened and we had to close operations. That 5 years of sweat equity and time and money I invested in was just completely, it was gone. And I felt like a failure. I felt like that was my chance to actually make a path for myself where I would be my own boss and have some sort of company that I could be proud of that I built, and I didn't have it anymore. And it took a lot of therapy, honestly, to really convince myself that that wasn't time wasted. That was time investing in a skill that I could put in my next endeavor, something like a YouTube channel. Realizing that I wasn't a failure because I was incapable of building the company. I failed because I didn't have the right systems in place, and the pandemic proved that. Once I realized that, I stopped seeing failure as this huge flaw and more of a way to just improve myself. And it took time, but instead of feeling like I was a victim and how things always go wrong, I started to just think to myself, what can I learn from this? What is it that I need to be better at to avoid the next failure? It's crazy, I almost welcome failure now. Not because it feels good, because it doesn't, but because it just allows you the opportunity to learn something. And that's been a mindset shift that completely changed how I handled the tough parts of adulting. The next thing I learned was the importance of prioritizing self-care. Back in the day, I thought that self-care was just a luxury. When your to-do list was empty, when your inbox was clear, and you just somehow unlocked a little extra time in the day. And because I never seemed to have that type of time, I always put that last. But I realized that self-care isn't just a nice to have. It is quite literally a necessity. And I'm not talking about spa days and clay masks and bubble baths.
I only take bubble baths.
I'm talking about everyday basics, everyday things we all need. Getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, getting into the gym, taking breaks without feeling guilty. And it felt like a conundrum because I was trying to assess how I can incorporate all of these things and still maintain doing all of my responsibilities. But the reality was I couldn't keep up with my responsibilities if I wasn't taking care of myself. So I started by just setting boundaries around my work hours, making sure I wasn't working after 5 p.m., being comfortable with saying no to people when I didn't want to do something, taking a short walk, doing a quick meditation, journaling for a few minutes in the morning. And only once I started to prioritize this that everything else felt a lot more manageable in my life. Prioritizing self-care became a lot easier once I learned the next lesson, which was how to manage time like a pro. For the longest time, I just felt like I was constantly racing against the clock. No matter how hard I tried, there just never seemed to be enough hours in the day to do everything. Between work, errands, juggling a million things, trying to have just a little bit of a social life, I just felt like I couldn't do it. But the thing was, I wasn't really managing my time well. I was just reacting to whatever seemed urgent in the moment. And the worst part was I was constantly busy, but I wasn't being productive. So I started asking myself, what are my top priorities? I had to get clear on what truly mattered to me and make time for that. Enter time blocking, the most simple and effective tool that I've ever used to take control of my schedule. Instead of treating every day like a free-for-all and just going down a to-do list of tasks, I have a dedicated time slot for the most important things in my life. Mornings are my health time. I'm at the gym, no distractions. Afternoons are my focus time, getting the most important tasks out of the day for my work, and that's it. And evenings are for personal time or with loved ones or just doing things that help me unwind. Instead of jumping from one thing to the next, I'm able to focus on what's in front of me, knowing that everything else that's important, I will get to. The next thing I learned was dealing with stress and anxiety. There's this unspoken pressure that hits when you step into adulthood. Like the world suddenly expects you to have everything figured out. But the truth is, I didn't. Not even close, not even a little bit. I really thought that by the time I was this age, I would have my career figured out, I would be killing it financially, and honestly, it's just not the case. Adulting was just honestly hard because when I graduated college, I no longer had a syllabus that was going to tell me what to do next. And you go online, you see all your friends, it looks like they have it all figured out, whether they do or not, but that illusion of they got it figured out and you don't, it sticks with you. It sucks, especially when you are really going through it. And that feeling of uncertainty just gets exacerbated and you start to ask yourself if you're ever going to be able to actually be a confident adult. And one of the biggest changes I made was just learning to slow down. It sounds counterintuitive, especially when you feel like you're behind in life, but part of being an adult, I feel like, is just learning that you are on your own path and that there is no behind in life. There's just your life. The pressure that we all put on ourselves to have to be successful by a certain age, it's just too much sometimes. It's often unrealistic. I have felt that same overwhelming tide for most of my life, having a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and juggling a million different things at once, thinking that I had it all under control, and in reality, I had nothing under control. In the moment that I just accepted that it was okay to be still figuring things out at this age, that was the moment that I just finally felt like I was okay with being me. And that's when I started this YouTube channel, honestly, because I just felt like, all right, I'm not too old. I can still do this if I wanted to. And if you're feeling like I did, like you're just drowning in the weight of it all, just know that it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be behind in life and to not have it all figured out, because most people don't, even if they think they do. Adulting's hard. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And there's all of these things that happen when you get older, like your back not working, mine's shot. Thank you guys for watching. It just means so much you're actually sitting down and doing or standing up. I'm not sure what you're doing, but either way, if you guys got value out of this video, I would love it if you just hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, look at my channel, see if that's something that you're into, and consider doing that. Go be an adult, and I'll see you in that next video. Later.